Welcome to the Mazinho channel. Today we're going to look in the endgame series how to convert two connected passes in a rook versus a rook and king. The position that we're taking is the connected passed pawns on the rook file and knight file, which should be the most difficult to convert. So once you have mastered this one, any other combination should be easier for you. First act of business is to move the king up in this position. What we want is that we want our pawns and the king to work together. The pawns will shield the king and the king will protect the pawns, and that way we'll move them further up the board. Black is not much interesting to do, so let's say king c6. Play b3, moving our pawn up and bringing it closer to its friend on the a file. Rook c1 and king b4. And here you see the king and both pawns working together very well. The b pawn will help protect the king against checks from both, from the side and from the b file. The pawn on a5 will advance. This one will consistently be a bit advanced versus the b pawn. It's important because otherwise we cannot hide behind our b pawn, and the king and the king takes control of b5 and c5, allowing us potentially to push the black king back. Rook g1, getting ready to mess around with our king, I guess, with distant checks. We give check, rook e6 to push the black king away. Now going to d5 is not a smart move, as it's not blocking anything anymore, and will make it easier for us to make one of our baby queens into a real queen. So let's say we do king e7, king to d7, where at least it attacks a rook. Create some checking distance, rook to h6, and now I would say black would play rook g2. Note that the check, rook to g4 check, is actually helping us to achieve our goal, because we would just move our king up, and after check we go back, but now to a4, and another check will lead to b4, and now we have advanced pawns. So black does not want to make it too easy for us, so let's say he plays rook to g2 and just marks time to see what we do. We follow the same concept, we just move our king to a4, getting ready to move the pawn to b4. So let's say in this position play rook to a2 check, then we can just move our king up to b5, and no further checks are possible since the pawn is protecting us through the b file. So instead black plays king to c7, we continue to advance b4, king b7, and now play a6 check. Please take note that we don't want to play b5, because now our king doesn't have an easy place to hide, and after check, king b3 check, king c4 check. Technically we should still be able to win this game, but we made it ourselves unnecessarily difficult to convert this into a win. So we want to keep our pawns together, and we want to keep our pawn defending our king on a4, and a way to do that is just to move the rook pawn first, a6 check. So we play king a7, king a5. Now if black would choose to check along the a file again, we play our king to b5. The next move will be rook to a7 check and push back the black king. So let's say that goes for another other line, rook g5 check, b5, and again we threaten to give check to the black king and move it all the way back to the back rank. If black wants to prevent that, it should play rook g7, but now we're very happy because we can now indeed play b6 check, and after king b8, boom, it's lights out, rook and checkmate. So there really is no way for black to prevent us from pushing the king back. So it should just go in acceptance mode and play like waiting move like rook f5. Now it's rook h7 check. King to a8. Black will try to set up some stalemate problems. Actually note that if now we make the mistake of pushing our pawn to a7, this is actually a very, very cool shower, as I would say. As you get boom, rook takes b5 check. Now clearly you see that we cannot take the rook because it would be instant stalemate and draw. But if we don't take the rook, what else is there? Well, we can only walk with our king. And after king a4, b4, a3, rook b3, etc. As you can see, there is no way to get out of the check other than take the rook, which would instantly go to a stalemate, so we can now shake hands. So don't want to do that. You don't want to move the pawn prematurely to a7. So rook d7 is a very key move in this position. So if nothing else, you might want to remember rook to d7. Now, why is this a key move? You'll see in the continuation. If black would go king b8, we would play king to b6. And now black wants to harass us again with checks. So rook f6 check. We move our king to c5. Again a check. We go to c6. And now, after the check, we have the very nice move rook to d6. And there are no more checks. Or if he wants to take our rook with check, totally fine. We then have a winning king and pawns versus king endgame. So remember, you want to move your rook on d7, where it can help protect the king when it goes further down the line. So after rook d7, black of course does not want to be so accommodating, so it plays rook to f8. Now we can play b6 because the pawns that are on the 6th row have full control of the 7th, and well, basically if the black rook moves, we threaten checkmate on the back rank. So black can give a couple of checks, and in continuation we will do so. But white king can either just continue to move to the black rook, but in this position we want to convert it a bit sooner, so we will move our king. And because black sees, we will move our king to c6, c7. It just goes into defensive mode and guards the back rank, as it doesn't want to help us move our king up the board. Now, if you play king d6 and rook h8, we now might want to play, actually we really want to play king c7. The idea behind it is that we want to threaten the trade of rooks, so we threaten to check on d8 and trade to rooks. But actually black has a very nice move here, rook c8 check. Now again, if we take the rook, it's a draw. It's very sad. 2 pawns and a rook up, and it's a draw. So we don't want to do that, but even if we continue with the proper continuation, which would be king to d6, we did not progress at all. So black just moves the rook back, and we are absolutely nowhere. So king to c7 does not work for that reason. What does work is rook to e7. Now the idea is simplistic. We want to move king to d7, where all the problems that we just mentioned don't exist, to threaten rook to e8, check, and exchange the rooks. Black gives a check. We play king to c7. Now if rook to c8, check, we just move our king to d7, and we renew the threat of moving our rook to e8, so that's totally fine. So black does not choose to check us here, but go to b8. And now to finish off, well, there are multiple methods to be honest. A very simple way of winning is just wait to move. So something like rook e1 is fine, or to e2, wherever you want. Black is in zugzwang. It needs to make a move, and after rook moves to, let's say, h8, we have check, king a7, rook d1, and we get something similar as a continuation that we choose. We're not going to play that move. We're actually going to do something active. It's more instructive. And actually, you already saw it. It's b7 check. Well, not much to do really. King a7 only move. And after rook d7, the threat again is very clear. We want to move our rook up, and after exchanging rooks, we win. What can black do, however? Well, rook takes, pawn takes, so that's not an option. King takes, game over. So the only thing really to do is to move the pawn away, and move the rook away, and let's say we move it to h8, then we get the simple rook d8, and if black chooses check, then it makes our lives easy because we just move our king up, and the next move we will promote. So black is desperate and trades rooks, and clearly if black takes, then we have our queen. So only thing that black can try is b8, but now we just shoulder black away. King d7, king a7, king c8 takes, and we have our queen. And checkmate will soon be on the board. Okay, I hope you found this instructive video. We will continue and increase our difficulty of endgames, but if you prefer to just look at game analysis from Grandmaster videos, also tune back in, subscribe, and you will see it when we make it. We will have at least one video every week. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye bye.